Hello everyone, this is Ketish here. In this video, I'm going to go through the AQA separate chemistry paper from 2022. It's the paper 1 higher tier. Paper 1 is 1 hour 45 minutes long and it is out of 100 marks and it has a total of 8 questions and there's 5 questions that is being tested on. So let's have a look at question number 1, which is on bonding structure and the properties of matter. This question is about metals and non-metals. Figure 1 shows an outline of the periodic table. So here, this part, D, is generally the non-metals. And A, B, and C are all metals. So element Q is a dull solid with a metallic melting point of 44 degrees. Element Q does not conduct electricity, so it should be a non-metal. Which section of the periodic table in figure 1 is most likely to contain element Q? That would be D. Element R forms ions of formula R plus 2 and R plus 3. Which section of the periodic table in figure 1 is most likely to contain element R? Now, group 2 generally forms 2 plus ions. Now, because this is also forming 3 plus ion, it can't be in A and C. It is actually in B. It's the transition metals have the ability to form different ions. Give 2 differences between the physical properties of the elements in group 1 and those of the transition elements. Now they are both metals, so it has to be differences. Now group 1 generally have a lower melting point. That means they also have a lower boiling point. Now those 2 points will be considered as one, lower melting and boiling point. They generally have lower densities, are less strong as well, and they are usually softer and more malleable or ductile than transition metals. Any 2 of those points will give those 2 marks. 1.4. Complete figure 2 to show the electronic structure of an aluminium atom. Use the periodic table. Now the aluminium atom, if you look in the periodic table, aluminium as the proton number or the atomic number 17. No, 13. My mistake. Get rid of that and write it properly. So that's 13 and the mass is 27. So what we want is the atomic number 13, which is equal to the number of electrons. And now if you remember, first shell can have 2 maximum, second shell can have 8, and the rest of the 3 electrons go on the third shell. So 1, 2 in the first shell, and let's draw this in pairs so that it's easy to count. That's 4, 6, and 8, and 1, 2, and 3. Make sure the process, or you could even draw dots, but make sure they are on the line. Aluminium is a metal. Describe how metals conduct electricity. Answer in terms of electrons. Now, metals have metallic bonding, which means they have delocalized electrons. Now, you have to mention this delocalized electrons in order to get a mark. Right? So, metals have delocalized electrons. Now these electrons have a negative charge and they can move through the metal, hence they conduct electricity. So the answer, metals have delocalized electrons. These electrons carry an electrical charge. You could say it's negative as well. The electrons move through the metal or the aluminium or through the structure. Just as quick notes, here's what metallic bonding looks like. So you've got the metal ions with the positive charges in the middle, and the red dots are the sea of delocalized electrons, and they are free to move within the structure anywhere they want. and as soon as you connect it to a circuit, they will move in the same direction. Name the type of bonding in compounds formed between metals and non-metals. Now, metals and non-metals, that would be ionic bonding. Remember, the third type of bonding is covalent, which is between non-metals. Magnesium oxide is a compound formed from the metal magnesium and the non-metal oxygen. Describe what happens to magnesium when a magnesium atom reacts with the oxygen atom. Now, remember, magnesium is in group 2. Oxygen is in group 6. Oops, should have written that as 6, not as 0. So, group 6. So, magnesium has an electron configuration of 282 because its proton number is 12, or the atomic number is 12. Oxygen has an atomic number of 6. So, it has 6 electrons in the outer shell. So, it has 2 and 6. Now, these two electrons need to be lost from magnesium, and they need to be transferred to oxygen. That means magnesium will form Mg plus, Mg 2 plus ion in the process, and the oxygen will become O2 minus ion in the process. That's your answer. So how do we write the answer? Magnesium atom loses 2 electrons. Oxygen atom gains 2 electrons. The 2 electrons are transferred in the process. Magnesium ions and oxide ions are formed. You don't have to write the formula for the ions. You can simply say magnesium ions and oxide ions are formed. But if you are writing the symbols, you need to make sure that you get those correct. So just as a quick note, here's what's happening in the form of a diagram. That's 12 electrons in magnesium atom, and oxygen has 6 in its outer shell, while magnesium has 2. So 2 electrons are transferred, which means this is what happens as a result. They both form a stable outer shell of 2,8. That brings us to the end of question number 1. And I will see you in question number